to episode 2 in this journey of musical memories. Down memory lane we go into my obscure and unremarkable musical history. This one is about my first live performances. So, the first time I played in front of anyone at all, really, was at a school camping trip in about 1980, 1981. I played a song called When She Cried. And the notes in the book that I wrote down then say that there were about 20 drunken students sitting around, and it went okay. So it went down quite well. Luckily, it says.
She wants it slow when it's fast. She wants more when it just wouldn't last. Wants it cold when...
My acoustic, folky style was feeling increasingly uncool. Nick King, who I'd made music with up then, had started a band called the Chainsaw Surgery with another couple of school friends, and they all seemed quite cool when you compare them riding the punk wave when compared to my acoustic, sort of folky, old-fashioned musical tastes, John Lennon, the Beatles, Bob Dylan. But, you know, I carried on down my acoustic groove anyway, even though I did desire an electric guitar. And I did get one on, I think it was my 14th birthday. I had a black electric Les Paul copy guitar. I can't remember the make of it now. I didn't have an amp, so that's a disadvantage when you try and play electric guitar. And I used to plug it into the speakers into my record player, and it would go through the speakers. And that worked okay until I blew the speakers up, and that didn't work anymore after that. I used to play loud rock and roll, sort of Chuck Berry kind of. I worked on my rock and roll riffs. I did play it once in a live gig though, I seem to remember, and it was sort of an art style performance in about 1983, playing a song I'd written about vivisection called Unlucky for Some. And as you can see, it left the audience somewhat bemused.
1, 2, 3, 4, the animals lie on the floor. 5, 6, 7, 8, they lock another in a cage. 9, 10.
So when I was 15, I had the opportunity to play my very first actual proper live gig in front of an audience that weren't just friends at school. And it was a CND rally. And I remember being terrified of having to go and do that at the time. And I kicked off with the very first song I ever played to an audience, and it was Bob Dylan, Blowing in the Wind. And I think they thought I was taking the mickey, or doing a pastiche of Bob Dylan with my blowing the harmonica and how many roads.
The answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. The answer is blowing in the wind.
So I had songs there about vivisection, nuclear bombs.
Working in the nuclear bomb industry.
Ronald Reagan, who was the American president at the time, I had a song for him.
How do you feel about having your own personal radioactive zone? Truman nukes Hiroshima in 45. You've read the books, you've seen the films, now see it live.
The audience, I seem to remember, were quite receptive and politely applauded, if I remember, and probably more out of pity on this nervous wannabe 15-year-old songwriter who turned up. But it was a baptism of fire, and we did that. And then I remember later on that day we then went to a pub in Eastbourne. It was a folk club, and my very first pub performance in this folk club, and I played Blowing in the Wind again, nervously, very nervy rendition of Blowing in the Wind. And somebody got up after I'd played to do their slot and immediately played Blowing in the Wind again, as if to say, this young pretender, let's put him in his place and play it properly how it's supposed to be done. How many roads must
before you call him a man. Yes, and how many seas must the white dove sail before she sleeps in the sand? Yes, and how many times must the cannonballs fly before they are forever banned? The answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. The answer is blowing in the wind.
So around that time, I once again made another tape cassette of my songs, and this time I painted a cover for it. You know, nowadays you can paint something big and shrink it down on a computer, but back then I painted it cassette cover size with a very small brush, and it was on one side it was a mirror image of a nuclear destruction, and on one side it was CND, the Campaign for Nuclear Disarmament, and on the other side it was DNC, Demand for Nuclear Confrontation, which I thought was very clever. At that time there was a lot of nuclear confrontation going on with Reagan and Brezhnev, and the Cold War was sort of nuclear proliferation, and also the Falkland War obviously started around then as well. And I had a chance, I wrote a song, the Ronald Reagan Blues, and I had a chance to record it with Ron Geeson, who was the producer of Atom Heart Mother by Pink Floyd. And he had a studio at his house, and he lived nearby and was friends of friends. And we recorded this in his studio. He played the piano and guitar, and it was a brilliant experience. He taught me an awful lot about writing, performing and recording, all things that I never forgot. Another lesson learned on the musical journey. And the song Ronald Reagan Blues went a little bit like this. How'd you feel about carnage and strife? World desolation takes years off your life. Having a waltz with a nuclear warhead, ravaging rumps with Reagan and Brezhnev. Nobody wins with either of them in Rum's nuclear war. Ronnie's got his plans for the all-American nuclear wasted man. As you sit in the rain of a nuclear storming European hurricane, and how'd you feel about fighting for rights? Everyone's equal and losing their life. Everyone's welcome to their own shed of neutron. If you're lucky, you'll get a bomb with your name on. Nobody's left, but everyone's forgotten in Ron's nuclear war. I had a 12-string guitar by then as well, and I played during a performance at the Broad Oak Village Hall. There was a bunch of my creative friends at the time, and they were putting on a show, and they convinced me to appear in a sketch where they all dressed up as Hot Gossip, which were a naughty dance troupe from the early 80s, and they all dressed up, and they convinced me to stand there in a pink shirt, cowboy boots, some dodgy shades, and a pair of tight PVC trousers. The thing I hadn't reckoned on was that I had my slot to go and play my songs immediately afterwards, so I had to play my set dressed with these clothes on, which was interesting. It was a good look. So at 16 in 1982, I learned a lot about performing and started creating songs that I still play today even. 3 of those songs from the time in my song Final Tunes for You and Shot of Guilt are all on my album Futures We Plan Become the Memories of the Past. And one of those songs, Shot of Guilt, of course, started life, that's embarrassing, it started life as being called Prick of Guilt, which you can imagine the titters and sniggers from people. So I hastily got the idea of what had gone wrong there and changed the name to Shot of Guilt, and that's how it's been ever since then. I glanced up for a second, and my song, it was nearing the end. Well, I searched the room hard, but my eyes could not focus on you. tune, finish weaving into hearts of the people around. I played slowly my last and my longest one wrote for you, and I laid down my final tune for you. As the night turned into morning, well, I'd walked home this way before. My guitar was still wet from rain and tears cried for you. So I drank myself into tomorrow, and the bitter taste stayed for a time. But I knew I was right and happiness I'd left behind. And I laid down my final tune for you. Had you been there and had gone before I was aware of your presence in the room? So I looked up for a last time, with love for you still in my eyes. I remember when we first met, you laughed, the last time you cried. Well, I'd like it to end as it started, but I'm sure you've been gone for too long. But I hope that one day you may realize you might have been wrong. And I laid down my final tune, yes I laid down my final tune, yes I laid down my final tune for you. So that's it, that's the end of episode 2, all about the first gig. See you for the next episode where we talk about my first band. Yeah. See you later.